Hello, welcome to my third video, where we'll be making a Ghibli style waterfall like this one. Uh, I'm not gonna try and pronounce it, but this guy made it in Blender and we're gonna do it in Unreal 5. And our end result is gonna look something like this. It's a bit misplaced in the environment, but yeah, I thought it would be better than showing it you like this anyway. So let's start with making our banded plane that we can use for the waterfall. So first we're gonna delete everything we have here and then add a plane, a grid plane, and we can set the resolution, the subdivisions, and the size. Yeah, we make it 2040 because we know we want to stretch it out over Y. I'm also gonna try to position it correct, more or less. And let's move it up. And then scale it up. Maybe reset all transforms first. Okay, so that's number one. And then we can copy this one for the stream below. And move this also. I rotate it this way, otherwise in Unreal we have it would be positioned wrong. Then we need to bend this one more or less. And we want to bend it over, excuse me, 90 degrees over Y, but this is a bit too curvy, so we're gonna add a limit. And now we need to add an object, which is the pivot point where the rotation would occur, or the bend, not rotation. So if we move this up, it thinks the same, 2.6, 2.4, so the rest, then we get what we want. Smooth shaded, and then we're ready to export. Apply the modifier, and then export as an FBX, where we only need the mesh of the selected objects. And same as always, X is forward and Z is up. We don't have any animations, and we want face for smoothing. I already have it, but let's override. And this one too. Okay, let's have a look in Unreal. If we import, if everything's okay, I bet it won't, like always. Yeah, so the maybe I did still make a mistake with the orientation. But we can fix this easily. It's just we need to flip the normals in Blender. So we go into edit mode, normals, flip, and then export it again. Okay, that looks better. So yeah, let's put both of them in, and I think I have double, so I need to delete some, yeah, and put them at the 0, 0, 0 ones. Okay, so we have our mesh. Now let's make our materials. Let me quickly check with the finished materials if they're all fine now. That looks okay. Okay, so let's go over the first one, the waterfall itself. We have a drip function, and we have a foam function. So the drip is these, yeah, those thingies, the circly things, and the foam is the blue one you can see in the background, and we have another one, the light color, and then we have the foam lines on top of that. Uh, and then we also have the displacement. So I'll do one function, and then I guess we can just go over the other ones. So let's start with our master material waterfall, and we start with texture coordinates. Now these texture coordinates can also be replaced by world position, and then the noise we create is relative to the world position. If we use texture coordinates, it's going to be based off the UV of the plane, so then it's always the same. And so we break those so we can control the scaling over X and Y. Oops. So the scale up parameter for the Y drip scale. We'll have a lot of parameters, so it's a good thing if you name them a bit properly. And then we want to make the y-axis scroll. So we use time, and we multiply it with some speed, some desired speed, and then we add it to the drip of the y component. Okay, so now we have what we need to make a new flow tree that we can use to get some noise. And we'll take Voronoi, and adjust these settings a bit. Let's have a look first, and then we'll see what we need to do. So this doesn't look like Voronoi because it's a combination. It's these settings. Like if we turn off the turbulence, it will be a bit more what we want. Then we don't want the output minimum to be below 0. And I think the levels 1 is enough. Yeah, that looks more like it. And we want to add a gradient to that. So let's take the texture coordinates again. And put them in a linear gradient where we use the V gradient or the Y. So we want to control the intensity, is that correct? The strength of the, so we add a power. It's going to define the line, how the transition kind of. And we multiply that with our noise, and then we should see some results if we don't keep the power at 0. So yeah, we can make it very soft, or we can make it dense. And all of this we still want to kind of clamp in value, so we get a more black and whitish. So we put a step and add a scalar for the minimum value we allow to go through. That's a bit too harsh. And it looks like we want the opposite of this. So best to invert our noise. And we do that with a 1 minus. And that's more what we need. And to make it more drippy, we can change the Y scale. Okay, so this is the basic drip function. And now we want to turn it into a function. So let me move out all the scalar parameters we made, because those will be inputs into the function. And then we can select all of this and collapse it to a function. Let's call it drip function. So a few things we still need to do to make it a bit cleaner. As you can see, it didn't take the names we provided, so we have to rename those. And just to see which one needs to be, because we also are going to reorder them in the input. So let's start with the with the X scale. and put this as the first input, then the Y, and the second. Okay, so once that's done, you can continue the rest. Now we want to add some color to this. So we're going to use it as a mask to lerp between two colors. And so that's color number 1 and color number 2. Make this a bit lighter. And so this is practically the base of what we will be keep doing. So we're gonna add another one. Same, use it as a mask. And then we can add the output of this one as the first color for this. And so we'll add another mask color on top. So wherever our mask is 0, we will get this. And wherever our mask is 1, we can get a new color. Let's change this a bit. Yeah, now if we change our scalar parameters, then we'll change all the previous ones too. So we have to rename these to be unique. And we can call them something like top. Yeah. So now that they're all renamed, if we change the value, we don't manipulate the previous one. Okay, so something like this for the background. Okay, so now that we kind of covered the basics on how to make these functions and what we can do to tweak them, it takes a lot of time, so I'm just gonna open the other ones and go over what's happening inside of them. So mostly the principle is always the same. We take some texture coordinates, so you could also do it with the absolute world position, and then if you move the waterfall in your scene, it will pick different noise based on its position. So it's if you want to multiply, if you would want to copy it around, this would be better than the texture coordinates because these stay the same for each instance. But it's always the same principle. We break them apart. We put two scalars on the x and the y, so we have some control. We make one of them scroll. In our case, mostly the y-axis. Added to that, put it back into a float, and use it as the coordinates to get noise. And so the same with this one, an extra noise layer on top of another noise layer. This one is void and this is simplex. So what we want to achieve is uh, kind of noise up our void noise or void noise. The same, we apply gradients. Here we can choose between a linear gradient and a radial gradient because we know that for the the, the plane that's on the ground, where the waterfall falls in, we want to have a radial gradient, and we can choose between those simply with a lerp. That if we put it at 0, we get the linear gradient. If we put it at 1, we get the radial gradient. Radial gradient needs a center to know where the the radius should start, and it needs a radius. So we have one Voronoi noise, and we multiply it to noise it up a bit with simplex, and then the same as before, we learn between uh, the gradients and the noise, and we apply a step to it, so we can kind of control the harshness of it. And so this gives us uh, these results. Let's let's put the let's put it in the output so we can see it, the mask it creates. Yeah. You can see still the Voronoi with all the dots or the spots, and then there's a simplex uh, kind of messing it up a bit, and the gradients making it disappear where we want. We do this for a bluish kind of color first, which is the one here, and also the same principle. We add on top. It's always our A channel, the previous mask we had in our A channel, a new color, and sorry, it's not a mask, the outcome of our previous LERP into the a new color into the B, and a mask into the alpha. We do this for two, right? So the blue one and the light one. Also the same principle. We rename those to have unique ones. Otherwise we keep adjusting the same. And another thing is if you see these, they don't need pins. But if you wouldn't, you get errors to start. So for any input, you can select and you can say use the preview value as default, and then so it wouldn't error because it takes whatever default values you put in here. And so for the lines we see on the plane, we have the lines function. It's more or less the same again. We break it apart, we scale them by multiplying, uh, we scroll them, make it back into a float so we can use it to get noise. Here we want to also multiply our x with how many lines we want to have. Plus we want to be able to offset them, like to the left or to the right. These, if they're not, if they shouldn't be centered, we need some control. Um, then we smooth step this because we want a little bit more finesse, a little bit more control about the output of the noise. And after that, we step the whole thing. So the smooth step is if we want to use more of the noise to kind of disrupt the the linear side. Because this one actually, I don't know if we can preview. Maybe not. No, it doesn't work in a function, I guess. But this would just draw straight lines, right? And so adding the noise to it and then clamping it in a step kind of gives us this distorted line. And then as the last function, we have the water displacement. And let's have a look inside that one. Also pretty similar. Break it, scroll, scale, put it back together, get the noise. Here we simplex noise, I think. Let's see. Should we make it for noise? Oh, looks okay. You can mess around with these noises, right? You can find whatever you want. If this gives better results, or um, then what else do we do? We have a gradient again. We kind of invert it with this, apply the strength, crispiness, um, and then we have a smooth step also, because maybe we want to have more smooth transitions. The same here. Mm. The smooth step allows us to define an area for the transition, while the step just defines a point for a transition. So that would always be a harsh line, the step, while smooth step can be a small gradient within a region. And then we want to add a strength multiplier, uh, as in how much do we want, how strong do we want the displacement to be. So pretty simple, and it gives us, let's have a look at it. It should give us some color, but we don't. Oh, maybe. Yeah, we multiply it by the vertex normal, because we wanted to point along the planes up vector or forward vector, depends on. Anyway, here the vertex normals would point out. They always point outward of the plane. Okay, so that's it more or less. Uh, I started a full version where we create each node, but that was very fast, going over 60 minutes. So I hope this is enough for you guys. If not, I can go into more depth and maybe do a series on each of the nodes and create them from scratch. So how to use it? Best way is to make an instance like I did, and then uh, you can choose which parameters you want to override. There are quite a few, and my naming wasn't that good, so you can do a better job at that. Like scale and scale one would better be like top, bottom, mid, uh, stuff like that. Okay, that's it. And one thing I almost forgot, uh, these things are only a displacement chain. So let's have a look. The same as as the as the displacement we put on the planes. Um, but then with the well position, multiply the scalars, get the scrolling. Uh, in this case, is around the the cylinder. Make it in a float. Put the noise, give it some strength, multiply it by the normal. And if you want to see the original object without the shader, so it's just something like this. But it's quite, where do we put wireframe? It's quite dense wireframe, you can see. I leave it up to you to make this in Blender. It's quite easy. Okay, so yeah, then that's about it. One other thing, uh, those particles is very simple. Uh, Niagara. Can we open this somehow? Yes, we can. But there's a lot of tutorials on that. It's a pretty standard. I took a fountain and then just tweaked some settings and rotate a bit. You can see, so they kind of burst out towards the flow of the water. The same here. Yeah. Okay, so then that's it. Hope you enjoyed. See you.